Hello, my dearest confidant. Today's going to be a little different. We talked about the Lionsgate portal coming up, and it's a huge time where a lot of things will start to come back up. Things, old wounds, things that you thought that you were over, things that um, you thought were past. And I'm having that happen to me. And since, you know, you can't share your story during this video, I'm going to share mine, a little bit of it anyways, some stuff that's coming up for me. Specifically, it's really, I've had a lot of, you're supposed to focus on how you feel. Um, and I don't know about you, but I think in words. I have a voice in my head. Um, and so everything is narrated, if for lack of a better way of putting it. And so when I go in to feel my feelings, my brain automatically categorizes it with words and says, you felt angry, you felt sad, you felt abandoned, you felt whatever. And so there's not a lot of sitting with it as far as there not being any words, because there's always words. And so if you're like me and you think in words, you might have a similar problem. Like, I can't get down to what I'm feeling because I keep thinking about what I'm feeling or how I felt. And sometimes that makes it harder to alchemize, to get to really clear. And I'm not much further in my journey than you are in yours. We're just different, experiencing things differently. And we're drawn together for a reason. You're watching the videos for a reason. And so, um, you know, something that came up in the mornings when I first come out here, the first thing I do is look down at the river because it's right over here. And this morning I thought back to last year when that trespasser came all the way up our stair. It's a 60-foot cliff. He came from the other side of the river farther down, up our 60-foot cliff, up our personal stairs, our private stairs, and came onto our property, got halfway across. And the first thing my husband asked him was, "Hey, are you okay?" That was the first words out of my husband's mouth, even though the guy was well enough to walk all the way up the stairs. And the guy said he was fine. He just wanted passage through. Okay, well, now you're trespassing. You have no good reason to be trespassing. And so then the uh, vibe changed, right? We went from being concerned to what the fuck. Um, and my husband was nice the entire time, and he made sure he was really physically fine. He walked him out of our gate on the other side to the road, and let him go. No, whatever. And then the guy came back, and I saw him coming back, and so I went up to meet him at the gate, and he was about to open it, and I was like, "Excuse me, why are you back?" And he's like, "I just need to get back down to the river." What the hell? Like, this is not this is not a thoroughfare. So anyways, when he got back across the river to his friends, the first things out of his mouth were, "People can be so rude. I've never been treated so poorly in my life." And I flipped out. I flipped out. And so then, I talked to the neighbor to find out if everything was okay over there. And because that was the direction that he went. And they had urged me to contact the sheriff's department. So I had, and I put out a restraining, or excuse me, he got trespassing put on his record. Like, there was no charges filed, there was no whatever. It was just that, hey, don't come back, basically. Like, you have a restraining order, you can't be within 100 feet of their property. And it was for a year. And I had found the guy on social media before I had contacted the sheriff's department and told him, like, "Hey, dude, like, that was pretty fucking rude that you went back to your friends and said that shit." um and I didn't know the dude before. He told me his name, and I found his name on social media. And I say name because it wasn't his real name. But I was able to find him very easily because of that, because it wasn't a real name. So there wasn't a whole bunch of other people on Facebook that had that name, um, and lived in this area. So, anyways, I had found him and whatever. And so my thing is like, he had the nerve to tell me that I should, after we had conversed for a minute, and he was trying the entire time to get me to reverse the charges, or, get that stuff taken off. Like, how dare you? Like, this is the consequence of what you had happen to you, of what you did. Um, but really getting back to the feeling of it, I was very angry. I was hurt. I was scared. I felt like my privacy had been compromised. My safety, this place has been a sanctuary for me. And that guy just walked up very glibly. And I mean, the first words out of his mouth were, "Don't shoot." The first words out of his mouth were, "Don't shoot." And the first words out of my husband's mouth were, "Are you okay?" And so you could see the difference in the way that things were perceived, right? Um, and so, being in Texas, you could totally get shot immediately upon entering somebody's property and not supposing to be there. Like, you may not even get a warning. It may just be like, "I saw your ass. I'm hunting you. You're on my actual property. I'm going to shoot you," you know? And people get shot all the time, not just in Texas, in general. So, anyways, that was one of the things that came up today. Something else that has come up, and I find it hard to talk about on here because I know some of my family members watch my social media. But I think now is the time for me to bring it up because it's bothering me. And, maybe if I share my story, you'll be able to see yourself in this story somehow, either on the other side or on my side, or whatever. See your place, how you are, it playing a role in this, um, in your family's life. I've been getting some pressure from my mom and one of my uncles, um, about making up with my siblings after my dad passed away. Without going into all of those details again, it was just a very rocky time in my life. I was trying to mourn the unexpected passing of my father. I'm not the oldest child. However, my father was single, and I was in my family's words, the most responsible, to handle it. And so I had to take care of all of his affairs and stuff. And there was no will or anything. And so there was probate and all this other stuff. And I'm trying to handle my children, my job, my husband, my emotions, my father's affairs, all of the different things that come up within that. I had to settle debts for him. I had to, go to a storage place and clear that out, and put a house up on the market because, my siblings and I couldn't agree on things, and blah, blah, blah. People were stealing things. Like, there was so much stuff going on at that time of my life. And in that time of my life, I had a job where, I was in the military, and my job was to be the commander's helper. So anything that the commander needed, I was responsible for that as far as people were concerned. And then I was supposed to be the liaison for the people for whatever they needed. And so a lot of people are coming at me with things that they need, problems that they have, and I'm over here about to implode on myself, right? Um, and then there was the sibling aspect of that and they weren't nice. They weren't nice. And it's not even just me saying like they weren't nice to me, like they weren't nice. um I understand that they were grieving too, but we all handled it differently. And I was willing to have conversations with them about it. They were not willing to have a conversation about it. And I'm not talking about arguing, like pointing fingers and name calling and blaming. It was like, I did this because I felt this way, or I handled it this way because of this. And being the executor of somebody's estate is a nightmare if you've never had to do it before. In and of itself, it is a nightmare. Unless you are an unemotionally invested person in that, and you're just a lawyer or whatever, and so you have no actual ties to the person besides a contractual agreement, right? There was no contractual agreement. We agreed as siblings that I would be the one that would handle it. We all agreed to that. And I tried to be as fair and equitable as possible. However, they wouldn't have conversations about it to make sure that it was as fair as possible. They were like from my perspective, right? They could totally see it a different way, but from my perspective, they were like, "Yeah, no, I'm not going to help you with that. I'm not going to help you with that. I'm not going to help you with that." And so, anyways, there's a lot of angst there. And then, of course, my childhood with them wasn't the best childhood either. We'd never been close, and so this just strew us to the odds of the earth, right? So, anyways, there's been a lot of pressure from my mom and my uncle, just in general about your family's all you got, and blood's thicker than water, and you should be there, you should make up with them, and this and that and that. And I'm like, okay, but I did try for as long as I could until I kept getting told no, get the fuck out of my face, leave me alone. Um, and I would wait a while and let them cool down, and then I'd try to attack again, and not in an attacking way, but just like, hey, how are you doing? And then there'd be no response, or there'd be like a one word, whatever, like, I still don't want to talk to you, basically, stay the fuck out of my life. And I was actually told that, stay the fuck out of my life. And so, trying to honor that and then also honor myself is hard. Um, and so getting the pressure back from my elders is not helpful. It's not helpful at all. And they think that they're being helpful by continuing to tell me that they love me. Okay, you may love me, but you're not looking out for my best interest. And my best interest is taking care of my mental health. And I have a lot of complex trauma. And I am trying my best to be who I can be, um, a stable person in my own. Because who's going to take care of me? They're not going to take care of me if something happens and I have a mental breakdown. It's not going to be them. So, anyways, there's a lot of pressure there. And it's frustrating because for some reason I'm still the one that's supposed to fix it. I can't make other people do anything they don't want to. And they think if they stay ever present in my life, that eventually I will see their side of it and do what they want me to do. In reality, they're thinking to all of the things that hurt them. They're thinking to all of the ways that they could have done things differently with their siblings or their parents or their this or their that, right? They're not actually thinking about my situation because they don't know it. They're not thinking about what's in my best interest. Because if they were, they'd be like, you know what? I understand why she is staying her distance and I'm going to give her her space. However, instead, it's making me distance them too. And, they say phrases like no pressure, but the pressure is there because you said something. The pressure is there because there is um, an expected outcome. The pressure's already there. Um, and my mom and my uncle don't ask a lot of questions, they tell a lot of things. And so it's really hard to put that into my, like, I'm an adult, right? And so it's hard for me to be like, I have that thing where I want to please people and I want to do what's best for as many people as possible. Um, and so trying to balance that with, but you don't actually get to tell me how to proceed. You can give advice, you can give your opinion, your suggestion, um, but you don't get to come into my space and tell me. That's not how it works anymore. And I'm having a hard time balancing that with, well, they're your elder and you should listen to them because they're wiser and older and blah blah blah. Well, they're not always wiser and older. I can tell you right now that at least my mom is emotionally immature. She is. And that's not putting a dig on her. It just is what it is. There's not been a whole lot of growing in that area ever since I was a child. And now, because she feels more at ease and at peace with herself, she expects us to just be okay with the way that she still comes across, not even just what she used to do, but how she still comes across to us. And I speak for all of us because I know that she's like that with my siblings too. There's no way that she's treating me one way and then them another. Not in the basis of things, right? She might treat us differently based on our separate personalities, but the core of her being doesn't change, is what I'm saying. And she's gotten a little softer as she's gotten older, but I still remember some very traumatic things happening to me when I was a child. And I recently brought that stuff up to her, and her response was, well, but didn't it make you stronger? Well, wait a minute. We're talking about how it's affecting my life now. Sure, I am very independent. I am hyper independent. Um, But that comes with different issues because then I have trouble letting people in and all of these other things, right? A lot of people that are watching this video right now might think that I have it all together and I'm so calm and peaceful. I garner that within myself because I know that that is where the healing takes place. I know that that's where I want to reside full time, but I don't feel like that all the time, right? You guys don't get to see all of that because you don't get to see all of my life off social media. Um, but there's a lot of inner turmoil going on in here. I've gotten to a place where I reflect on it and let it pass. Right now, it's coming back up because there is some pressure. The Lionsgate portal is trying to purge some karmic stuff, and I want to let it, right? So, this is an outlet. I got to use my voice. And if you don't watch the video, you don't watch the video, right? But if you do, then that's awesome because then that means that you're open to learning and healing and growing. And I get it, this is a long video. Maybe take it in pieces. Um, but I know that those that are meant to watch this video are going to watch it. And um, yeah, so yeah, maybe I'll cut this into a couple of different videos so that it's easier to digest. You can pause it, I guess. Pause it and remember where you were. But yeah, there's a lot of pressure and it's making me, again, remember all of those things. Like the basic feeling that I can equate to all of those situations is that it made me feel unsafe. It made me feel unsettled. It made me feel small, like I was unimportant. Made me feel like I didn't matter. And I know that those things are not true. And so being able to sit with it, though, that's the hard part. That's the hard part. But when you sit with it, that's when the healing comes. So I have a lot of stuff going on today, but my thoughts are going to be with sitting with it because I've definitely had a lot of shoulder pain and back pain. And I know that that's all part of that. Like shoulder pain is burdens. I'm carrying other people's burdens. So like, what my mom and my uncle think I should do, how I should behave, who I should be. I should spend time with them. I need to, basically sacrifice myself for the good of the relationship. And I know that that's the way that they grew up. And I'm not saying that that is wrong for them, but it is not the way that I want to live my life because then I have pains and things. Um, then I can't commit to other things because I'm worried about this old thing over here or this thing that doesn't want to be fixed or isn't meant to be fixed, right? Instead of focusing on how I can best serve myself, how I can best love myself. And one of the most loving things that I can do for myself, even though it is hard, is separating myself and distancing myself from those people. Now, my siblings, I'm already far removed from them. I don't live in the same town. I don't talk to them. I haven't talked to them in years. We don't exchange happy birthdays or any of that stuff. Like there is radio silence. Um, but with my mom specifically, um, I've had a hard time distancing myself from her because there's always that mom daughter thing. Like you should be there for her because she's your mother. And she has been there for me a lot, but there's always been some emotional abuse that has occurred with that. And of course, from her side, she wouldn't see that. And I'm not saying this stuff to dog my mother. I'm talking about my experience. And one of the last conversations that I really had with her, um, she tended to contact me, making it seem like she cared about how I was doing and stuff. And then she'd immediately go into her and talk about what she needed and what she was going through and this and that. And I felt like there was no space for me there. And it's one of the reasons why I hate phone calls now, because when I would get on the phone with her, it'd be an hour and I would just be trapped in the conversation. I would even tell her I need to go. Okay, and then she'd start another conversation, and because of the way that she brought me up, I wouldn't disconnect from the phone call. I would sit there and just wait for her to be done, and I would not really contribute anything meaningful to the conversation. It would be a lot of yep, yeah, nope, that didn't happen, or Um, and it didn't matter how much I gave or how little I gave. She would just talk until she was done talking. And so she had called me one of these last times that I actually answered the phone, and she was asking for something again. And I was like, "Do you ask me for stuff because you know I'll do it, or are you just asking?" And she's like, "Yeah, no, I expect you to because you're my kid." Uh, that changed my perspective because I am not a child anymore. I am not responsible for anything in her life. And that goes to show that, like, she expected me to be responsible for things in her life. I'm not her parent. That's not my responsibility. I'm not her friend. We never cultivated a friendship. And so that was my aha moment. Okay, I need to separate myself from this and back away because she is not thinking about my best interest. And she would give me compliments and stuff. "Oh, you're doing a great job. I'm so proud of you, blah, blah, blah." But it wasn't, I never really felt like it was genuine because she actually wanted goodness for me. I think it was, "You're doing what I want you to do, so here's a compliment." That's how it felt. Um, and upon doing further research, my mom is not just emotionally unavailable, she's a narcissist. And whether she wants to admit that to herself or not doesn't make it not true. And that it's really hard to be a part of that, to continue to have a role in that. And one day she or somebody really close to her might see this video, but I mean, who's going to say that they stay 20 minutes in to hear me say that stuff about her? And I just I don't have time and space for any of that stuff in my life anymore. I don't. I'm not making time and space for any of that stuff in my life anymore. The things that make me feel unsettled and unsafe, I'm not going to entertain. And unfortunately, that means, distancing myself from other people that are getting older and I could be close to, but now it's at the point where I'm choosing not to, because there's been a history of disregard for my ultimate well being. So if you're still watching this, you know, it, maybe you're the me in your situation, but maybe you're the narcissist. Maybe you're the emotionally immature person. Maybe you're the parent that's trying to force the child, um, and thinking that you have their own best interest because that's what you're thinking right on the top. But subconsciously, it's really about how does this separation of my children and me make me feel? Are you doing that? And so yeah, I just want autonomy to be my own person. It's the reason why I had dropped that friendship just like a month and a half ago now. Because I want the autonomy and I want to provide autonomy for others. And I think I do a pretty good job of that. I don't force anyone to do anything. I say, "Hey, this is why I feel the way I feel," or "This is why I do things this way," and let other people make their own decisions based off of that. And if it comes to a point where they continue to vent to me or bag on me, then I just remove myself from that situation. It just is what it is. Okay, so now we've done that. You're still here. Start this back up. I feel a little better now that I've gotten all that off of my chest. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. Conclusions are within reach. Full moon eclipse. Let's bring out the book so we can get all the goodness. Full moon eclipse. And just like that, a door slams shut. If you pulled this card, it suggests that the situation you're asking is about to reach a peak or has just done so, and things are now out of your hands. What you're experiencing now is what your soul signed up for, a way for you to learn and for your soul to evolve. So allow events to unfold and be easy on yourself. If you're letting go of someone or something, know that it's the right time, as hard as it might be. Forgiving someone for what they did could be key to resolving the situation in a positive way. It doesn't make right what they did, but it releases it so you can move on. Attune to the moon. That which is meant for me will not pass me by. Additional meanings for this card. Doors which slam shut now will not reopen. It's time for you to get back on track. Forgiveness will set you free of karma. Meditation, I can't say it, pranayama, and yoga nidra are all recommended now. Seed control and let events unfold. The teaching. Full moons are nearly always about climaxes and very often about conclusion. A full moon eclipse, a full moon eclipses are the same, but on steroids. A full moon eclipse can be hard to handle because it portends change, something many of us are uncomfortable with. But change is a part of life, and this card, no matter when you pull it, reminds you of that fact. Full moon eclipses can also give us a glimpse into what Carl Jung called the shadow self. Work with your darkness. And there's also a full moon coming in the next couple of days. And so it's a very powerful card. And I think the timing is absolutely on point with what I'm basically talking about. It's like I want to let all of that stuff go. The Lionsgate portal is coming. I want to let all of that stuff go and be done with it, like once and for all. Um, because it's those situations have already passed and I can't do anything about them. I can just move forward in love and focus on the relationships that pour into me as much as I pour into them. I love you, my dearest confidant. Until next time.